Ich war am Wochenende noch auf dem Junggesellenabschied in Budapest.
Welcome to PhD2go, the podcast for PhD students in the natural sciences in Göttingen.
Welcome back to PhD2go for our fourth episode. Today we have, including myself, 3 former PhD students from the University of Göttingen. Alright, so as you guys know, my name is Elisa, and I have some big news for you. I've actually just completed my PhD in December of 2022. It's now, thank you very much. We're recording this now, May 2023, so what have I been doing in the meantime since I finished? I actually was offered a postdoc position at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia in the US. At the end of January, as I was telling you earlier, Moritz, I kind of wrapped up my life here in Germany and packed up my bags and moved over to the US to start that position.
And now you're back.
And now I'm back to be with you lovely people.
Hi, that's great. Congratulations on your PhD. And yeah, I'm Lisa Swen. I did my PhD with IITG 1816. Currently, I'm a junior faculty at Tufts Medical Center, Boston, USA. And recently, I received my first semi-independent grant from American Heart Association and preparing for my independent grant applications.
Very nice, exciting, and probably stressful time right now.
Right.
Great, Lisa. That's really great to hear.
So yeah, that's from my side, Moritz. You can start.
Okay, then it's on me now. Yeah, I'm Moritz Schnelle. I'm also a former PhD student in the International Research Training Group in the first cohort. I was very fortunate to be able to spend almost the entire PhD in King's. So I spent basically 3 years in London, 2.5 years I think it was. And after I finished my PhD, I came back and started working as a clinician scientist in the Department of Cardiology because I'm a bit of an outsider. I'm an MD by training, so I'm not a biologist or a molecular biologist. I'm a medical doctor, and in Germany it's very uncommon for an MD to do a PhD. In the UK, for instance, that's much more common, and the typical path if you want to pursue with science, you do a PhD. Here, that's not very common. So, in fact, I was the first one here at the University Medical Center Göttingen to go that way. Came back, worked as a clinician scientist, realized that direct patient contact is not really what I want to be doing. And so I moved in 2017 to the Department of Clinical Chemistry, got my board certification last year, got my habilitation 2 years ago. And I'm a senior managing physician there right now, but still very closely associated to the cardiology department for research purposes. And this is where I am now.
Moritz, you make it sound so straightforward and like you've always had this mapped out your entire life, but is that actually the case? Has it always been so straightforward?
That would be a no.
so
clear no.
So at which point in your career did you decide to make a turn? Or maybe do a UE? Or
I think that's a very good question. I think it's very important what kind of people you meet in your career. So I was very lucky to get to know Dorte Kaczynski, the chair of the International Research Training Group. She was giving a seminar in medicine at med school, and I was attending that seminar. And I said I want to do my Dr. Med, which is I always call it a little kid's doctor. It's more like I can't say that out loud. My fellow medics will now be very mad at me, but it's more of I would really say in most of the cases more of a master thesis, but we can then call ourselves Doctor of Medicine, and that's very unique in Germany, but that's how it works. And I did my thesis with Dorte Kaczynski, and that experience was just basically telling me that I want to keep doing research, and so I went to San Diego. I did an internship at UCSD in San Diego, so I knew I want to do science. That's clear. Came back, and then the idea was that I go to Cambridge to the guy where I also spent my internship with in San Diego. He then moved to Cambridge. But then the ITG came into play, and Dörte told me, here, there's a great opportunity and you can go to London and you can get a PhD. And for me, that was like this. I said, all right, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's clear. But, and that's maybe something that is important. You always need to question yourself and be, as a scientist, you learn to be critical. You need to be critical with yourself. Mainly two things. What do you want to do and what are you good at? That's very important. And not so much listening to other people, because what I did, no other medic, no other MD did it that way. And they all looked at me and said, are you crazy? What are you doing? I mean, you're earning significantly less money and you're doing something that is really weird. But that's fine. I mean, to me, it felt the exact right thing to do, and it proved me right all the way. So if I had the chance, I would do it exactly the same way again. And I think if you can say that, then it's not so bad, I would say.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question, no, it's not straightforward.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's I totally agree with this whole concept of like the mentors, the scientists you meet in your way, and the people who inspires you really affects the way of your career, decision making and career goals. Yeah.
Although I have to say, it also, I mean, the people who are enthusiastic about it and who are really interested into it, they do get to know the right people typically, right? Because if you just sort of pretend to be interested, or you just want to get the titles or the academic titles, and you're not really interested in science, then people realize that quite quickly. So it's typically that the right people, they match. At least that's what I've experienced so far.
Yeah. They stick along like for a long time, right? Otherwise, you just part ways. Yeah.
But I think we would all agree that that academia, that science in general, is not something that you can just tag along for. It very much requires hard work and determination and passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And self-motivation. Yeah, you need to be, motivated by your own, goal, like, why you want to do it, like your own determination or like will is the key to be in academia and do science.
Absolutely. And coming back to that first major point that you made, is really just knowing what you want and what you're good at and what gets you up out of bed every day, and that you're excited to put the effort into.
And if you make a decision and you decide for yourself, this is what I'm going to be doing, then stand up for it, and defend your decision and just go for it. And if you at some point realize maybe the decision was not so right, then you can always adjust it. But at first, when you make a decision and you go a certain path, stand up for it. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, but I think that's very important. That's what Dörte told me at the beginning when I started with my PhD. She told me, it's very, I think she said impressive or something like that you make this decision and you're so clear about it. But for me, there was no question that I would do something else. No question.
And that brings us to this point, like the exposure we get at IRTG, like the industrial exposure, all the seminars, all the weekly meetings we are getting, that exposes us to all kind of possibility in our career. So say at some point you realize, oh, this is not my career goal, or this is what I'm not interested in. Actually, you are exposed to so many things. You can make your decisions like, okay, at least I have some, exposure to industry. So maybe I'm interested in that, or some exposure to, clinical scientists. So maybe I should talk, your contact persons, how to approach them. And IRTG really prepares you for all kind of, things coming on your way for your future.
Exactly. And even if you at some point decide that maybe academia is not what you want to continue with, then it's also fine to think about industry. It's not wrong, even though some professors might tell you, oh, that's the dark side, don't do it. A lot of professors say that, and I know where they're coming from. Consider it. If you think that for certain reasons, something like stability, permanent position, these are all things that are very important, and I can understand people when they say this is more important than maybe the content, and that's absolutely fine. I have a question for you too, because I was based here in Göttingen before, and I got to know about the IRTG, about people that I knew. First of all, how did you hear about the IRTG, and why did you decide, as you already pointed out in our discussion earlier, to move from the US to Germany is quite unusual. Why did you do that?
I can start with that. So I actually came to Germany after my bachelor's for a fellowship. It was an exchange between Americans and Germans to each other's countries, and got to know about the cardiovascular master program in Göttingen through that program or through that fellowship, and that's where I actually met my master thesis supervisor, Professor Susanna Lutz, and we had a successful lab rotation. I had a successful master thesis, and then that she introduced me to the IRTG 1816 and offered me a PhD position in the third cohort. And so that's how I got to Göttingen, got to Germany, and why I stayed was because there was a very interesting project all the way back to my master's.
So I moved to Germany for my master's. So the reason I moved was I wanted to have an international exposure, and I also wanted to challenge myself in a place where the language is not familiar, because I always wanted to learn a new language. I could have moved to like English speaking country, but I always applied in Germany and Sweden. These were my two targets. And after moving to Germany for my master's, I was doing PhD interviews with various institutes. I went to Lübeck for their IRTG program, and our IRTG was yet in very initial stages when I applied for PhD. I came for interview with Dörte, and after that meeting, that the motivation I saw, the mentor I saw in Dörte, I just could not. Dörte and Katja, that time, I could not go back. I got selected in Lübeck and at Göttingen, but I chose Göttingen. And that time IRTG was in the initial stages, and IRTG, grew in front of me. So, but I was a part of all the programs, all the seminars and everything, which benefited me a lot. Retrospectively, when I see myself, that the kind of training I got at Göttingen, that's like unbeatable. Like I see other people coming to, when I was doing postdoc, my fellow postdocs I was seeing, and now I'm seeing my colleagues. I think what the foundation I got at Göttingen, and in general, I would say in if you compare the training we got in like any other country compared to Europe or Germany, it's unbeatable. Like at a PhD level, I'm saying we get an exposure like a postdoc at a PhD level. So we get to lead our own project. We get to connect with other PIs. We get to talk to or build collaborations with other labs. So which was not allowed to be done by a PhD student in so many places. So I think that's the incredible exposure we got there. So retrospectively, I think this is the best decision I made of joining a PhD at IRTG 1816.
Great, I completely agree. I mean, but again, it's important who you meet. You met Dörte. She catches people. If it wouldn't have been her, maybe you would have decided to do Lübeck, and I'm sure you would have been successful as well, but it would have been gone in a very different direction, I'm very sure. So it always at the end of the day, very much depends on the kind of people that you meet in your life and how much they promote you. Yeah, I mean, Dörte is the best in that sense, clear.
And I was my co-PI or my London partner mentor was Dr. Ajay Shah, and he's such a well-known, like that exposure was also very helpful for me because he's so well-known scientist. And currently we are also having a collaborative project in his with his lab. So that
really?
collaboration. Yeah. So this collaboration with King's College London helped me all through till now. And if I need a recommendation for my new faculty position application, or if I need a recommendation for my green card application for say, I can anytime reach out to these collaborators and they will be happy to provide me a recommendation. And those kind of links would have not been possible if I would have not been in this graduate program.
And I would also advise everyone exactly what you say. Try to go out of your comfort zone. Do something that is not easy and is at the beginning a bit harder. Don't, I mean, I'm sure you could have done a PhD in India somewhere, but you decided at first the harder way, but that at the end that will always pay off, always.
And it's part of my life now, like having knowing or understanding, at least like when you are going on a tea or somewhere and you hear someone speaking German, you are like, yeah, I know, like, and that is so comforting. Like I know a language that gives a lot of confidence that at this age of my life I could learn a new language and grab some, to some extent I can speak. So that was really, that gives a confidence.
And it's great to see that there are people out there who are happy to see Germans. That's not very common.
Yeah, Germany is always special for me, and it will always be.
So as I hear you guys talk, you obviously are both much more advanced and experienced from where I am in my career right now. It's really inspiring to hear what you learned from the IRTG 1816, but also I can only agree and can only confirm what you said. And unfortunately, most of my PhD was during COVID, so it did limit things a little bit, but still was fully prepared to make the decision to do a postdoc and to kind of explore those options. But I guess I have two very direct questions for both of you. Lisa, I think I'll start with you. So you came to Germany, you did the IRTG 1816, you did your PhD, and then you went to the US. So I guess that's the most looming question for me right now is why the US, why that decision?
When I was looking into the funding, even in Germany, of getting some more my own fundings for postdoctoral research, I was always being, told in the funding guidelines, you should not be doing your PhD in the lab where you did your PhD. That's the condition, one of the condition of the grants. And that made me feel like, oh, maybe it's considered bad to be on the same under the same mentor, because for being in academia, because you are in a comfort zone, you never want to get out of your comfort zone. So that made me think of like what next steps. That time I was working on the redox biology project, and I came to present my data in international conferences and in states. And I met some, pioneer in the field. And when they recognized my data, they were like appreciating my, findings. That gave me a very big confidence. Like, oh, you know what? The pioneer of the field whose papers I'm reading are coming to my poster to acknowledge my work. That was really inspiring for me. And then I started like saying, oh, what could I do? Can I come to your lab to, learn more? So that's how I decided to move to States. And to add to this, like within a year, I understood within a couple of months, I understood this is not the place. I started looking for, of course, with a constant guidance for Dorothy on the back door. So she always said, you can come back anytime. But, I wanted to like give it my shot. So when within a year, I understood this is not the place. I started applying. Fortunately, I got a position, which is my current position. The PI and my, this mentor-mentee relationship worked really great. And within 2 years, I had a JAC publication, which is like 20 impact. So it was not me. It was not the environment of change of science. Like, it was just that thing was not working. I mean, you are being used to be supervised certain way, and you are being like, and as a postdoc, you need to be appreciated of your ideas, or you are welcomed by your ideas. Someone should not be shut you down that, oh, you don't know anything, just like do what I am saying you to do. If you see this kind of things and you are saying, oh, I am having some trouble, change.
And I think one very important aspect that you brought up at the beginning is one character trait that is also key, and that is being proactive. You have to be proactive. If you go to conferences, you have to speak up to people, even though they are very important and big names. Doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. Talk to them. If they think you're stupid, then they will let you know, and then you go and approach the next person. You have to be proactive. That is key. No one will come in, or it's not very often that people will come and approach you and say, hey, that would be great if you would work in my lab. You must be a genius if that happens. You have to be proactive. That's very important. And you also will receive probably bad feedbacks, but that's fine. That's part of the game.
Yeah. And you will be surprised to know these big shots, these people who you look up to, they are so humble. They are so humble. You approach them, they talk to you most of the times.
Not all of them. There are definitely exceptions.
Yeah. So they're really like most of the time. So don't get discouraged, but mostly you will get like very nice feedback.
But I think you had more questions, didn't you?
Yes, I had another direct question for you actually, and it's more along the lines of, so you've seen how science works in the UK, in Germany, and also briefly in the US
Yeah,
as
very
well.
briefly. Yeah.
But your central point is in Germany now. So what led you to that decision? And I mean, could you have practiced medicine also in the UK?
Yeah. Also, very good question. Everything that I have so far, I could not work in the US as an MD because you need to have the three different types of exams that you need to pass before you can work as an MD in the US. So that would not be an option, really. I mean, I could probably go there just for science, but I don't want to do that. So I always want to keep that medical side also running. So the US would not really be an option, which is unfortunate because my wife and I, we really like the US and we go there once a year for holiday reasons. We really enjoyed that. And we always thought about also moving there, but job-wise, it doesn't really make much sense. The UK would be possible, but I mean, I've spent almost 3 years in London, and I felt that it was enough. I really liked it there, and it was probably definitely one of the best times of my life, for sure. But it sort of felt like right to leave. No, that wasn't really for me. I was then happy to move back. And since I'm so well connected here, for me that was a no-brainer that I would stay and try to move up the career ladder. And then clearly, I mean, if we are talking about future, I probably won't stay here for the rest of my life. That is pretty certain. But where exactly and when exactly I'm going to go, that's not clear. But what I would find interesting now is, so what, because it's also about the path after the PhD, we talked about this, but what is now? What would be your ideal scenario in 10 years, let's say? I mean, this is always a stupid question when you go to an interview. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Stupid question. I don't like that. But so where would you, but now I'm asking this question because now I'm really interested. In 10 years time, Lisa, where are you?
Yeah. So see, like for me, I have to have a plan B in place because of my visa status. I am still on visa in States. I applied for my green card, but a lot of things depends upon my green card. So I have to have a plan B. But I ideally see myself as a professor in 10 years. The plan B would be like into academia, into industry, but in a research-driven group where I don't have to worry about the money. Let me do the science, and I will be head of a scientific team or something. So that would be my plan B. But depending upon my visa.
Also
in the States, yeah. I decided to stay at least until I retire, and maybe I'll have a retirement home back in India. That's what my plan is.
Lawrence, you just bring out those tough questions, don't you?
We're not just here for the fun of it, right?
We're here for the honesty.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't think I can give you a 10-year plan right
Okay,
now.
well, 5 years is fine.
I'm taking it month by month.
Okay.
Because it's just a very critical time point in my career right after the PhD.
Okay.
I'm giving academia a shot in the US, and so it's the beginning of the
that's true.
postdoc. So I'm saying I'm giving it my best in this postdoc academic position. Ask me next month.
Okay.
Yeah?
We'll do that.
But what about you? What is your 10-year plan? What's on the horizon?
Well, I would like to be a chair or director of a university hospital institute, department clinical chemistry. That would be my goal.
I tell you what, both of you say it so straightforward. I mean, I know you've done a lot of thinking and a lot of research and, hours just ruminating about it, but you guys, you're an inspiration, really, because you've figured it out.
Yeah, in 5 years you will be as well. I know your situation where you are in right now. So
now I tell you something that I was not going to tell, but now I'm going to tell it.
Oh, spill the beans.
Exactly. So after I realized that working clinically is not really what I want to be doing with direct patient contact, I was exactly in that position. I was like, oh, damn it, what am I going to do now? I mean, this was the idea was that I now become a cardiologist, and I started contacting the industry, and I had the chance of becoming a lab head in a large industry company, and
Wow.
I was already in negotiations with them, and it was really nice. And then my boss, Professor Hasenfuss, who's here the head of cardiology department, he came up to me and said, "We need to find some other." I mean, I told him that I really don't want to do this anymore, and of course he was not happy, but he was completely professional, very professional, and said, "Okay, well then." At the beginning, he said, "Oh well, if you have something there in industry, then and you think that's right for you, then go." Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it only matters what you want to do. But then he came up to me and said, "No, we have to find something for you here." And then he came up with the idea that the clinical chemistry may be something that would fit me. And this is how it worked. But I was exactly at the same spot. I was like...
But once again, you put the effort into making those connections, and those connections helped you find the middle ground.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to reply to your point that it's so clear and so straightforward. It never is. I don't know anyone where it's like that.
But that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah, of course. And at the end, it sounds great, and it sounds like, oh, you've done perfect and amazing, great. But there are a lot of obstacles and detours, and that is very normal. And at the end of the day, you'll be fine. You just need to always, as I said, always question yourself. Always ask yourself, what do I want to do? Where am I good at?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And always go back to your mentor. Talk to your mentor. Like, have one mentor in your life, So that will definitely, they know better than you. Like, they have seen the whole career path. So they can guide you better. If they are saying it's okay, don't worry. Take their words. It's going to be okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Moritz. Thank you, Lisa, for taking the time to sit down today. And I think we had a very nice conversation about our processes of how this all went down after the IRTG 1816. So I hope all of the listeners will stay tuned, because I actually have quite the surprise for you next episode.